Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from our IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Terminator labs, the video number 44. I've been discussing in the previous video the following. I've been working now for 22 videos on how to deploy different operating system images. These images contains common programs that are used frequently by most users in most corporate networks. How to deploy these images or these different operating system images with programs on a large number of PCs in uh, in a semi-automated way. Okay, so we have, or the user should have some input or some action to be done. So for example, if you need to deploy Windows 10 on a machine using the MDT, of course, and the Microsoft deployment services, there will be some action you need to take. So you need to tell or you need to name the PC, you need to choose the task sequence that the MDT will do. So for example, we have a lot of deployment task sequence. For example, we were working in the previous video how to deploy Windows 10 Pro image with all of its programs. We have another task to deploy Windows 10 LTSC 2021 Enterprise Edition. We have a task for that. And we have another task to deploy Windows Server 2022 Standard Edition. So this is a semi-automated way. You need to have some input by the user to complete the process or to complete the deployment process. So we have done this successfully, and we have stopped the last time at this. We have already deployed Windows 10 Pro using a task sequence, okay? And today we will discuss the same concept, but we will deploy it in an zero touch installation way or in a fully automated way. What I mean by a fully automated way, we will not have any input from the user. You will not, for example, uh, decide the PC name or the computer name. You will not type the computer name. You will not choose the task. You will not choose the applications or the additional applications that will be installed on the image of the operating system. Not we will do. We will not do any one of these steps. If you see the previous video, we can see, or we have chosen the computer name. We type the computer name. We uh, choose the task, okay, from these tasks, and we have choose the applications or additional applications that will be installed, like Office, like Firefox, and so on, and the BitLocker. So today we will discuss an operation called zero touch installation. This is a fully automated process. Through it, all of we were doing the previous video, it will not be done by the user. It will be done automatically using scripts and using the Microsoft deployment toolkit database. Okay, so this is a very, very important process. Uh, it will help you a lot on automating the deployment of different operating system images in a very, very fast time, or in very, very short time. So in 45 minutes, if you are using the zero touch installation process, you will find that the PC will take a name. First of all, the operating system will be installed with all of the programs. Then the PC will take a name. Then the PC will have additional programs installed like Office and Firefox. Then it will join the domain. Then it will make WSOS, or it will get Windows updates. All of this will be done in 45 minutes in a fully automated way. If we can describe this process, we can see this graph. Okay, this is basically, or the trick here, that we will have an MDT database that will contain all of the necessary data to fully automate the deployment process. So in this database, we will have the name of the PC, we'll have the applications that will be installed on this PC, we will have the credentials, or we will not the credentials, we will have in this also the task sequence that will be chosen. So the database will contain all of the necessary things to fully automate the deployment process: the name of the PC, the applications that will be installed on this PC, the task that will be executed by the MDT. So this is the key factor, okay, of our zero touch installation process, or the fully automated installation process. Basically, this is the PC. It doesn't have any operating system. You will just power it on. It will go to the Pixie mode. It will search for the boot server or the name of the boot server, which is the WDS server. It will boot to it and then load the boot image. This boot image will go and search the MDT server for the folder that contains the Windows image with all of its program. It will search it and then it will begin, or it will complete, or it will begin the deployment process. After it goes to this or to the folder that contains the Windows operating system images, it will search the database. It will begin searching the database. The first thing it will search in the database, what is the MAC address of the network card of this PC. So this PC currently doesn't have a name. So how it will know that a certain task should be applied to this PC without a PC name? So it will identify the PC through the MAC address inserted, or the network card MAC address inserted in the database. This is the key factor for identifying the PC. You can identify your PC through the network card MAC address or through the serial number of the motherboard, and another thing called UUID, or Unified Identifier. These also are some identificators for the PC, because the PC currently doesn't have any name. So you need to differentiate it or identify it from different PCs. So it will search the database for the network MAC address. It will see it, then all of the data will be, or everything will be cleared out, or it will be clarified with the database. So the network card MAC address, beside it, the PC name will be inserted. Beside it, the applications for this PC will be verified. Beside it, the task that will be chosen will be also identified from, or it will be taken from the SQL database. This is a SQL database that we will, through it, we will make an MDT database that will be attached to the Microsoft deployment toolkit. So after searching the database and getting all of the necessary data, the deployment process will begin. We can see that we have already a task that will fully automate the process. For example, we make two partitions, C and D, okay, for the hard disk. This is included in the task sequence. But for the server, we have the deployment server task sequence. We have a different setup in the deployment of server or deployment task sequence. For the server, we have two hard disks that everyone will be partitioned as one partition. Okay, so the deployment process will begin. Okay, everything will be done. As you see here, Microsoft deployment database contains PC names. Okay, at the end, what we will see, PC joining the domain, given a name, Windows operating system installed with all of the necessary programs. Okay, so this is the final result. You will have 45 minutes, just power on the machine, and then everything will be done without any intervention or without any input. So how this will be done, we have previously installed SQL Express on the MDT server. We will go to this SQL Express database server and create an MDT database. Through it, we will insert the MAC addresses of all of the network MAC addresses for all of our PCs that we need to deploy operating system on it in this database. This can be done manually, of course, or this can be done through a script. This I have already discussed in my DC Comics lab. Please refer to it, the section or the video of MDT deployment database or MDT database deployment. I have a video by this name. So today I will discuss the same process that I have discussed in DC Comics lab, but this time we will deploy or we'll discuss the zero touch installation process in a different way and in a simple way. Okay, I have discussed this in DC Comics lab in a little bit of a complicated way. Today we will discuss it in a very simple way. We will see the different options that we can use by the help of the MDT database that will ease the process or will make the zero touch installation process very fast and very easy and very excited, or or you will be excited to see a fully automated process for deployment of an operating system. This can be done on a large number of PCs. Okay, so this will reduce the time and the effort and the input done by the user. So let's see and begin this process today. And with our video, let's first close the Telegram, so we will not see any uh, alerts from it. And then let's begin our video. Here we can see that we will open the VirtualBox and then begin powering up our virtual machines. We have currently 3 virtual machines: the primary domain controller, the MDT server, which is at the same time hosting the WDS server role and hosting the WSOS server role and hosting the file server role and the DHCP. So all of these roles are on one server. This is the primary domain controller, this is the MDT server and the other server roles, and this is the additional domain controller. Okay, we don't need it currently, so we are working on the 2 servers. Okay, so this is basically what we will do today. The trick here, it is the database. Okay, the database will ease the process of the zero touch installation. Okay, and by the way, there is a documentation or how to do the zero touch installation process on Microsoft website, but I think it's a little bit outdated. I can show you all this. If you go to the website or let's type it here, MDT uh, documentation, document or document toolkit reference. If you go to this website, let me show you all. It will take some time because it contains a lot of, this is the deployment toolkit reference. There is a lot of or user guides on how to use the Microsoft deployment toolkit. This is a very useful link. It will contain all of the documentation if you need for Microsoft deployment toolkit usage or reference for it, for how to use it, how to install it, how to use it. Okay, so this is very good link that contains useful PDFs. In it, there is one thing called zero touch installation. If you go to quick starts, here is the zero touch installation. This is the light touch. This is the user driven installation. So we have 3 kinds of installations. Light touch, this is a semi-automated installation or semi-automated deployment, and zero touch installation, which is a fully automated deployment process, and it can be for the deployment and capture, by the way. So the light touch installation can be for the capture process and for the deployment process, and zero touch can be for the deployment process and the capture process, and the user driven installation the same for the capture process and the deployment process. Let's go to zero touch installation and see what does it says, or a little bit of a brief here. It says that Quick Start will quickly evaluate. This is for MDT 2013. This is very old documentation, but I think it can be applied to the same or to the currently used MDT currently MDT today to 2023. But let's see if we can see here a little bit of an explanation what is zero touch installation here by the definition of Microsoft. Here he doesn't give any what is zero touch installation. Quick Start for Microsoft System Center 2012 R2 Configuration Manager. This is done using the configuration or system configuration manager. It can be done through the MDT, but let me ask a question here for Microsoft. What is the definition? What is the zero touch installation? Okay, ZTI in MDT. Okay, let's ask it, because we need a definition of what is the zero touch installation ZTI in MDT. It will give us a description. So we can see here there is a lot of steps involved in this process. Okay, as you can see here that this is what I was talking about. Let me just read the first couple of lines. Okay, and here even we can make a little bit of a comparison between the three methods. If we go there, let's see what does it say. Here it says that it is done using the Microsoft Deployment Toolkit, I think here with the system manager, but or system configuration manager, but this can be done solely or only done by the MDT. Okay, but it can be done uh, by Microsoft System Manager and MDT, but it can be done without the Microsoft System Center. So here we can see it is saying it is a high volume deployment strategy suitable for mid-size to large organizations. ZTE combines the use of MDT with System Center Manager. This can be done with the System Center Manager and without it, which is a part of the System Center family of the Microsoft products. This method is fully automated and does not require any user interaction. However, it requires a continuous network connection to the distribution points or to the MTT server, of course. The distribution points here is referring to the System Center Manager. In ZTE process of Windows 10 OS deployment using uh, Microsoft Configuration Manager integrated with the MDT, you will use the components of an existing Configuration Manager infrastructure to prepare for Windows 10 OST. I'm repeating again the same thing. You can do it without the Microsoft System Center or without the Microsoft Center Configuration Manager. Okay? Please note that it is different from the light touch, which requires some user interaction. MDT performs deployment by using the light touch installation, zero touch installation, and user driven installation methods. So this is a very, very good thing to, or this is a description of Microsoft. If we can go and ask Google Bard about this process, let's go and ask it. If you go there and tell him what is the ZTE, if we can get a better explanation. Okay, you can see here it is saying a lot of things. Okay, okay, it's the same. It's saying the same as Microsoft here. Improve consistency will create, okay, defines the steps during the process. Once the DTE is deployed, is booted, the MDT automatically execute the ZTE task sequence. The task is perform the following steps: format the hard disk, install operating system, install the application specific task sequence, configure the setting. Okay, this, okay, it is done. Okay, once this is complete, okay, okay, this is a little bit like the same what is said here in Microsoft. If you can say the same or ask the same question here for Claude. Okay, this is basically, and I need even to make, if there is a comparison, let's go and ask, uh, compare between different, okay, let's give it exactly the same, compare between uh, uh, okay, ZTI, okay, zero touch installation, and LTI, and user and UDI in a table. Let's see if this MDT installations in a table. Okay, let's see the difference between both, or let's see the difference between all of these, and go to Google Bar or go to Claude and see what does it say. It's the same. It's a fully automated process. It aims to enable hands-off deployment without any manual intervention after initial boot to the MDT environment. Uses technology like Bixby boot. Okay, this is leverages custom setting DI rules and MDT logic to pre-process the devices, select all needed setting. Okay, so it used the custom setting DI to it's like an answer file for all of the things that are needed during the deployment, and the MDT database will be also like an answer file. Okay, so this is basically enable imaging factory floors or branch office rollouts without needing skilled IT staff on the premise. So benefits reduced, so on. So complex initial setup and configuration, basically, or this is correct because we'll do a lot of configuration. Rigid process allows little manual control during deployments. Okay, and okay, this is a good answer, but okay, we have all of the things, or it's a little bit, we don't get much. Okay, it is the same, they are all saying the same thing. Okay, and let's see here uh, what is or let's see what is the comparison between all of these. Okay, let's see the answer here. Okay, it's okay. Here's here installation method, description, user interaction, network connection associated with. Okay, light touch installation. Light touch is often associated with MDT and it is more interactive. It's typically used for standalone deployments. You can do it through work group, or sorry, I'm saying that it can be done standalone. I think here it is not referring to a network because it says here network connection not specified. So you can make an MDT deployment on a USB or DVD. This can be done. Okay, require more manual interaction during the installation process. Network connection not specified. It is associated with the MDT. This is the light touch. Zero touch. It is designed for automated hand-off deployments using SCCM. It minimizes the need for user interaction and it is well suited for large-scale enterprise medium level deployment. Okay, here is insisting to use SCCM or system configuration or system center configuration manager. This can be done without the system center configuration manager. No user interaction requires a continuous network connection on the distribution points and it is associated with SCCM. SCCM with MDT. Then for the last one, user-driven installation. User-driven installation, another method used with SCCM that allows end users to have some control over their OS deployment. It combines the automation of ZTI or ZTI with the user intervention input, providing a balance between automation and user choice. So allows end users to have some control, network not specified, SCCM. So UDI and zero touch, he is referring that it is used with SCCM. Okay, and I assure you that you can use it without SCCM. It can be used through the MDT. And the LTI, it is used solely or it is dedicated or it is used by the MDT. Please note that LTI is not exclusively for standalone deployments, but it's often associated with MDT for more interactive scenario. SCCM can support both ZTI and UDI for different deployment needs, with ZTI being the more automated option. So basically, user or user-driven installation, there is an input, zero touch installation, no user input, light touch, uh, it can have some, okay, I think light touch and user intervention are the same. They have some user interaction. The zero touch is there is no interaction. I think the light touch have more or have less interaction from the user and the UDI has more interaction from the user. Okay, so this is basically my analysis for these processes. If we can go and ask Google Bard about the comparison between both, or this all of these things. So we can see this is straightforward user interaction, non-minimal, significant. Okay, this is what I'm talking about here. I was referring to that the light touch have some minimal user interaction. The user, the driven interaction is significant. It means there is more interaction from the user. Automation, fully automated, partially automated, manual. Deployment speed, fastest, moderate, slowest. Deployment consistency, highest, high, medium. Okay, so I think maybe this is, if you can see other drafts. Okay, this is another answer. No interaction, user interaction required for some tasks, user interaction required for most tasks. Fully automated, partially automated, manually initialized, fastest, faster than UDI, slowest. More consistent, consistent, least consistent, large scale, environments, deployment where some user interaction is acceptable, deployments where user interaction is required, suitable for large organizations, organizations with smaller IT teams, organizations that require user customization. That is the most automated method. It requires the preparation and configuration. LTI is a good middle ground between ZTI and UDI. It requires some user interaction. It's still faster than UDI. I think this is also a good answer. The best deployment method for organization will depend on the specific needs. So this is a good answer. Again, an excellent answer. If you go to the last answer, or the third thing here, more things, user interaction, no, none, minimal, required, fully automated, partially manual, fastest, faster than manual, slowest, highest, high, high, consistency, complexity, more complex, less complex, least complex, larger scale, small scale, individual users, Windows PE, uh, required. I think this is not a correct answer. User driven. I think there is still boot image here. Task sequence required, optional. Okay, I think these two are not correct. But anyway, we have a good answer from Google Bard. Let's go and ask Claude if we will ask, or if he can provide us with a more clear answer, or a more acceptable answer, or more simple answer. So now we can see that we have a clear understand of what, or the different installation uh, types through the MDT. There is a lot of things you can do with the MDT. You can make a fully automated installation or deployment or capture, or a semi-automated installation, or a manual installation. You can do that through the MDT. Okay, so you can do all of the things you need, or the different installation types, through the MDT. Here we can see this is the answer from Claude. User interaction, none, some, full, fully, automated level, partially, none. Task sequence, automatic, manual. Okay, yes, I think this is correct. Customization, automatic, rule based. This is, you're talking about the custom setting .ini. Manual plus some automation. Also, this is through rules, or through a custom setting.ini. This is done manually. Okay. Technician oversight, not required during imaging, required for monitoring and occasional input, required full time. Okay, this is another very important note. Deployment targets, hundreds of thousands of identical devices, dozens to hundreds of similar devices, one-off deployments. Boot methods, PXC, CD, USB, multicast, USB and DVD. Okay, he's referring to the network through PXC or CD or USB. Multicast, maybe this is also through the network, USB. This is USB or DVD. So this is another good answer. I think he is referring to standalone deployments. Okay. Runtime rules, extensive, moderate, moderate manual. Okay, so you have rules or custom rules or custom setting DNI and different tasks. Custom image handling, difficult, moderate, and easy. Custom image handling. So he said it is a little bit difficult. I don't know what he mean by custom image handling. Operational knowledge needed. Extensive, yes, you need to have knowledge with the MDT. Moderate, minimal. Initial configuration, complexity high. You need to do a lot of configuration. Moderate, low. Useful for factory imaging, branch rollout of STD configurations, corporate desktop refresh, some factory imaging, one-off deployment, custom imaging. So in summary, ZTE provides full automation over flexibility. LK or LTI strikes a balance between automation and control. UDI focus on technician-driven installation. So good answer. So if we go there again to our section or to our video, first of all, I need to return back. We are using the zero touch installation process. Uh, this process will be done extensively, or it would depend upon the custom setting.ini, which it's like an answer file, contains all of the answers needed by the deployment, and the MDT database will act as a second answer file that will contains all of the necessary data or the input needed by the deployment. The name of the task sequence that will be chosen, the name of the PC, that applications that will be installed. So let's go and dive further on how we can do that. Okay, so now we are on the MDT server. Let me have a look, guys, about something here. We need to see if we are recording. Okay, we are. So now this is my domain admin account. So the first thing we need to do is to create an MDT database. We have already the SQL Express database installed on the MDT server. We need to go and create an MDT database, which will be attached to the MDT console or the MDT deployment toolkit. So the first thing we need to make sure is to see the different or the important or first we need to check that the SQL Express database is working perfectly. We need to see the services that the SQL service or we need to see the services that the SQL Express database depend on. We need to make sure that the SQL Server service is up and running. We need to see a couple of services running, and we need to activate additional options in the SQL Express database to make it more easy for the clients to communicate with it. So this is the SQL Server Configuration Manager. First of all, this is the SQL services. We need to make sure that the SQL Server service is up and running. SQL Server Browser is up and running. And a couple of options we need to focus on. These options, if they are not activated, the clients will not be able to communicate with the MDT database to get or to begin the deployment process. So as we have said before, that the MDT database will contain all of the necessary data needed for the deployment process. So the client will communicate with the MDT and ask to begin the deployment of the operating system or the image, and then the MDT will get all of the needed data for this process from the MDT database. Okay, or yes, this is will be done, but first the client needs to communicate with the MDT database to check to see his MAC address. So the client will communicate with the MDT and tell him the MAC address of his network card, and then the MDT needs to check with the MD database and see this MAC address. That with it we will associate or associate different things. We associate the name of the PC with the MAC address, the task with the MAC address, the application with the MAC address. I think The MDT will not have a role in that, but the client will directly communicate with the database. So this is why we are uh, activating these options. So let me show you what are exactly these options that we need to activate. So here in the network configuration, we have two things we need to enable: name pipelines service or protocols, the name pipeline protocol, and TCP IP protocol for the SQL Express database. These two will allow the clients to communicate with the SQL database. Not the SQL database in general, but the MDT database in the SQL service database. Okay, so we need to activate both of these services. If they are not activated, the clients will not be able to communicate with the database of MDT and verify that the network card MAC address is inserted in the MDT database. So what are these services? Why are they important? What is the shared memory protocol? What is the name pipeline protocol? What is the TCP IP protocol? We can go and ask the AI tools again, which is very, very important. Here we are. Why do I need to enable in the protocols for SQL Express? Why do I need to enable shared memory, name pipelines, and TCP IP? Taking into consideration that I am doing that to deploy machines using MDT database on SQL Express. So this is a straight question. Why do I need to enable these? And I am putting into consideration that I am using MDT database to deploy machines. Explain what is protocols for SQL Express. So here he will give us an answer. Here are the key points about protocols for SQL Service Express and why they are needed when deploying with MDT. SQL Express can be configured to allow connections using different protocols, including shared memory, name pipelines, and TCP/IP. These protocols allow programs like MDT to connect to and communicate with the SQL database. Okay, so the MDT need to communicate with the SQL Express. Okay, why? To access its database. Okay, so this is one thing. Shared memory protocol allows connections from clients running on the same computer as the SQL Server instance. We will see what is a SQL Server instance and what is a SQL Server database. Okay, we have some, or we can ask a question differentiating this. This provides high performance connectivity but only works locally. Name pipelines allows connecting to SQL Server from other processes on the same computer or other computers on the network or on the same Windows domain network. So this is what we're talking about. Name pipelines will allow us to connect to the MDT database. The clients will be able to connect to the MDT database on the SQL server. TCP/IP allows connections over any TCP/IP network, including the internet. So the MDT, you can connect to the MDT database locally on the network or through the internet. For MDT deployments, you typically need TCP/IP enabled so that the MDT deployment server can connect to the SQL server database over the network. Name pipelines can also be used if MDT server is on the same domain. Okay, so these two should be enabled. Shared memory is not required, and by the way, it is enabled by default, as we can see here. Okay, so in summary, enabling these protocols provide the necessary network conductivity for the MDT to communicate with the SQL Server Express during deployments, while also allowing flexibility for management. TCP/IP is the most important for remote MDT usage. Okay, so this is the answer. If we go to here, the same question is answered by Google Bard AI. The same question is answered. Let's hear the answer from Google Bard by the listen button.
Enabling shared memory, named pipes, and TCP/IP protocols for SQL Express is crucial for deploying machines using the MDT database on SQL Express. These protocols facilitate communication between the deployment toolkit, MDT, and the SQL Express database, enabling seamless deployment of operating systems and applications. 1. Shared Memory Protocol. This protocol allows for direct communication between processes on the same computer, offering the fastest performance for local deployments. 2. Named Pipes Protocol. This protocol enables communication between processes on the same computer or across the network using named pipes, a secure and reliable communication mechanism. 3. TCP/IP Protocol. This protocol facilitates communication between processes across a network using the TCP/IP protocol, enabling remote deployments. By enabling all three protocols, you ensure that the MDT can connect to the SQL Express database regardless of the deployment scenario, whether it's local, across a LAN, or even via a remote connection over the Internet. In summary, enabling shared memory, named pipes, and TCP/IP protocols for SQL Express provides the necessary flexibility and connectivity for successful machine deployments using the MDT database on SQL Express.
So this is the answer, okay, for Google Bard AI. And I have verified that these two answers by Claude and Google Bard are correct by asking Copilot on Ping or Ping Copilot about the answer. I have already done this. You can just copy the answer, tell him, verify if it is correct. We have done this further, or we have done this before in previous videos. So let me show you. I have asked it a little bit of a question. What is the difference between, or what is the SQL server instant, or what is SQL server instant, and what is a SQL server database? Let me remember what was the answer. Okay, this was not the answer. Okay, here we can ask it a question. What is the difference? Because here I have a question. What is a SQL server instant and what is a SQL server database, and the difference between both? What is the SQL server instant and the SQL server database, and the difference between them? Okay, this is one I have asked before this question, so let's see what will be the answer, because I have suspect what is a SQL server instant. I know he's referring to the SQL server. Okay, so here he's saying is a copy of the SQL Server software that runs as a service on the computer. So the SQL Server instant, this is the software that handles the database. So this is the difference. Okay. It is responsible for managing and executing SQL Server database. A SQL Server database is a collection of data that is organized in tables, indexes, and other objects. In other words, SQL Server Instant, it is the engine that runs the SQL Server database, while a SQL Server database is the container that stores the data. This is one good thing. In other words, SQL Server, that is the engine that runs the SQL Server database, while SQL Server database is the container. We have said this before. And we can say this in definition: a copy of SQL Server software that runs on a service or on a computer. Just a moment. Collection of data. Sorry, guys. We need to close Avera. Okay, purpose: manage and execute SQL database, stores data, can run multiple databases, can only store data for a single application or user. Okay, local, installed on the computer, stored within a SQL Server instance. So here is an analogy. Even he's giving you an analogy to understand the difference between a SQL instance and database. Imagine the SQL Server instance is a library. The library building itself is the SQL Server. So this is a library. The building, or the library building, this is the SQL Server instance. The books stored in the library are the SQL Server databases. So this is a clear, very, very clear example what is a SQL Server instance and what is a SQL Server database. This was a question that was in my mind. I am not a SQL Server in an administrator, so I don't know the differences. So if we can go and ask Claude the same question, and we can ask Copilot again the same question, we can go there and ask it the same, and then we can go and continue the other things here. I think we have the other question. So, okay, let's see the answer here. Uh, the key difference between a SQL Server instance and a SQL database is SQL Server instance is an installed copy of the SQL Server database engine using as a service. An instant manages storage, processing, memory for hosting databases. You can have multiple instances installed with the default instance typically being the server name. SQL Server database, a database container, okay, holds tables, store processes, and so instance can host multiple separate databases, each containing different apps. In summary, SQL Server it is the actual database engine running on the server. SQL database is the container, so it's a little bit complicated, not like the answer of Google Bart. So the instance refers to the border SQL Server environment, while database is the data store. Okay. For example, you have a single SQL Server hosting separate databases for inventory, payroll, CRM. The instance manages and provides access to these databases. So this is software used to access the database, back up the database, and do a lot of things actually. Okay, so this is the answer of Claude. As for the answer of Copilot, let's see its answer. So if we can go and see the answer. Okay, each this is a more complicated answer, but we have known what we need or what we have. You have the figure, or you have figured what is the server, the SQL Server instance, and what is the SQL Server database. This is very clear. If we go again and continue our explanation, if we can go further like that. So let's go there. And here, for example, I asked it to elaborate more on shared memory and its relation to MDT. He's saying what is the shared memory. Again, it is not related to, or it is not it's not important for the deployment, but here he is talking about it. What is shared memory protocol? It allows two processes on the same computer to communicate by sharing a section of the memory. This provides very fast connectivity since it avoids network overload. For SQL Express, enabling shared memory allows local connections from tools processes on the same server to connect the database engine without using the network stack. Again, he is insisting shared memory is not required for the remote deployment itself. The MDT server and SQL service does not run locally on the same machine. Okay, so the MDT server and SQL does not locally. Okay, they run locally on the same machine, the server. However, shared memory can be still useful for managing SQL Server Express. Okay, this is, as we said, we can see here this allows two processes using the SQL Express to share communication by through the memory. Okay, through the memory. Okay. Okay, could benefit from shared memory connecting to local instance. In summary, enabling shared memory provides performance benefits for local management connections. It's not required for the actual MDT deployment connectivity, which uses TCP/IP. It can left be disabled if there is no local management needed, but often it is enabled. Okay, because we need to manage it. Okay, so let's go and continue our video. So now we need to enable both of them. So we right click and enable, okay, and then we'll enable the TCP IP and need to make sure that it is enabled through all of these network connection 32-bit and network client, okay, so it is enabled, all of them are enabled. Go to native client protocols, okay, it is enabled as well. If you go to the SQL Server network connection, it's enabled. After enabling them, you need to restart the SQL Server service, okay, because this will activate or this will apply these changes. If you don't do that, it will not be applied. So you need to enable them and then restart the SQL Server service to enable or to activate or to apply these options. Okay, so now we have them enabled. Let's see how much time we have. We have 4 minutes. Let's see the time that we were talking. Okay, we have 49 minutes. We can continue an hour. We have another 10 minutes and then we can end the video. So we have the services starting. SQL Server agent is not needed. It will be started automatically if it is needed. So now we can go and begin the process of creating the MDT database. But before that, we need to check a couple of important services to make sure that most of our server roles are working. So we need to check the SQL Express services. If they are running, then the SQL Service Express database is running. We need to check the WSOS services. If they are running, then the WSOS will be running. What are the WSOS services? Like Windows Internal Database and WSOS Service and Windows Update. These are the three services related to the WSOS. And for example, also the MDT monitoring service, we need to make sure it is up and running so we can monitor the MDT processes. So first of all, here are all of the services. First of all, we need to make sure that Microsoft Deployment Toolkit Monitor Service is running and the WDS service is running, okay, and the Windows Internal Database is running and the WSOS service is running and the Windows Update and the SQL Express. Remember that we have a task created in the task sequence to make sure that all of these services, or to check if these services are running. If they are not running, it will start them. We have discussed this in a previous video. Okay, so we can see now that all of the services are running. Now we can go and begin the process of creating the diff or the MDT database. So here, this is an advanced section. Okay, here is the thing. We have a lot of things that we can do with the advanced configuration. One of these are the databases. We can use the MDT database to automate or to make the zero-touch installation. And there is some different options also that can help us, okay, or it can provide additional uh, ease it or additional flexibility to use the MDT, the selection profiles, the linked deployment shares, the media, and the database. So let's see the AI tools explaining these. So if we go and ask Claude, by the way, I have asked Claude and Google Bard about this question, or to explain the advanced configuration under the MDT. It doesn't actually give me a good answer. So for example, selection profiles, he said these allow creating customized groups of applications, packages, and drivers that can be assigned to deployment, make it easier to repeatedly deploy systems specific set of applications. So for example, in the selection profile, if for example you have HP PCs and you need to install certain applications to them, you can do this through the selection profiles. So if the HP or the PC is HP, then certain image or certain applications are installed. So this can be done using the selection or selection profiles. The linked deployment shares, you can link multiple deployment shares to provide unified view of content, useful when you have multiple environments. If you need to link two sites, for example, you have an MDT server in Japan and MDT server in US, if you need to have their context synced or to be one or to have identical configuration, this can be done using the linked deployment shares. Okay, as for the MD database, configure setting related to the backend MD database like SQL server names. Okay, this is not correct. Okay, so these two are correct, but let me get the most correct answer. If you go to Copilot and ask it this question, I have asked Google Bard and he didn't give me also a good answer. So I will let a Copilot give you the most uh, correct answer. Okay. Okay, here is giving us a good answer. So we'll explain this and then we will stop at this point. But let's first go and see what Copilot has to say about it. Okay. Okay, and by the way, let me see something here. There is media, or there is a lot of things. So if you go there and ask or see Copilot, what does it say about these? So the first thing, selection. You can create and edit selection profile, specify what folders and items from your deployment share you want to include or exclude in your deploy. For example, you can create a selection profile for Windows 10 that includes only the application drivers, operating system, and task sequence related to Windows 10. You can use selection profiles to control the content of your boot image, media, and linked shares. Anyways, selection, you can do it for a certain type of PCs, as you said before, for HP or for Dell. As for database, you can configure and use an MD database to store deployment information. It's like an answer file, computer names, roles, application, and setting. This is what we will do. We will store the computer names, the applications, and setting in the MD database and link it to the network card or MAC address of the network card for the PC. You need a database to automate and customize your deployment based on various criteria. For example, you can assign different applications to different roles and then use the roles to determine which applications to install on each computer. Linked deployment shares. You can create and manage linked deployment shares to replicate the content of your deployment share to other locations. This can help you distribute your deployment resources across multiple sites or networks. You can use selection profiles to filter the content of your linked deployment shares. You can also configure replication options such as copy mode, update boot images, and single user mode. So this is related to diff or various MDT environments or various MDT servers and linking them and syncing the content between them. Okay. As for the media, you can create and update media to deploy your operating system and applications offline. So this is, you will have all of the image and the deployment process will be done or automated, but not through the network, but it will be on a USB or DVD. Okay, media can be useful when you need to deploy the computers that are not connected to the network or have limited bandwidth. You can use the selection profiles to control the content of your media, also specify the media size and location. So these are the 4 types of advanced configuration, and this is the database that we will use to fully automate our deployment process in and it is named zero touch installation. So I will stop at minute number 6:37 and we will continue in the upcoming video. Hope this video informative for you all and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.